And good Saturday to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Weekend Now. I'm Heather Tesch.
And I'm Carl Parker. Hurricane Bill has blown by Bermuda, is now brushing past the east coast as well. The Category 2 storm whipping up the waves there in Bermuda. This is eyewitness video. Some tree damage in Elbow Beach as well. And about 3,700 people without power in Bermuda. Those high waves cutting into those pink sand beaches. No reports of any injuries at the island's main hospital. Ferry service is canceled until Sunday, but largely a glancing blow there in Bermuda.
And we have live team coverage of Hurricane Bill's impacts. Mike Seidel is in Jones Beach, New York, and Jeff Morrow is near Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Before we get those live reports, let's see where Hurricane Bill is now with Carl.
Well, what we can tell you about the hurricane is we've been forecasting it would largely be a wave event for the U.S. It's exactly what it is. This forecast has turned out to be a very good forecast. Storm now lifting to the north at about 23 miles an hour, 100-mile-an-hour wind right at the core there in that eye wall. So it's still a strong storm, still going to cause some serious problems in the Canadian Maritimes much later today into very early tomorrow. And you see the expanse of the storm. Tropical storm force winds extending out 275 miles from the center. Some of those are going to get into southeast Mass later tonight. So after midnight through the overnight hours, it's going to get very gusty. And of course, high surf is what we have been watching from Cape Cod all the way down to Flagler Beach here in Florida on the order of 10 to 15 feet. Cape Hatteras and the Cape there as well. Cape Cod even higher than that in the next day or so. Heather?
All right, thank you so much, Carl. Now we continue to track Hurricane Bill and most importantly the effects that it is having on the East Coast. Now for a look at what is happening in Jones Beach, New York, let's go live to meteorologist Mike Seidel. And Mike, I understand that swimmers, this is close to swimmers, but it is not close to gawkers, and it looks like there are a lot of people there, and many of those folks looks like are wading into the water.
Well, it is a beautiful beach day after overnight storms. The rain ended right around sunrise. So we got a lot of people on the beach. You know, summer's winding down. School starts in a couple of weeks. And this is the lagoon created by the overwash from the higher than average tides due to the moon phase and also because of Bill. So this whole area here, looking all the way off towards, wow, we're looking at off towards the east here, is all underwater. You can see some people wading through the water, knee deep or deeper. And there are the lifeguards out there putting up the red flags. So they put the red flags up and down the beach this morning and this afternoon, and they're keeping people out of the water, and people pretty much have heeded their instructions. Nobody is gone in the water except for maybe the toes or the ankles. The reason for the waves? Well, Bill making that closest approach tonight. So the waves get generated and they outrun the storm. This is called swell, so that's why the wave action arrived here overnight and this morning. The peak waves expected tonight, 8 to 12 footers. We've got 8, 9 footers right now. They are huge. You really get a sense when you get right out to the surf. And then tomorrow things will back off as the storm pulls away. And by Monday we should be back to normal out here on the beaches. But I wouldn't be surprised if they keep the swimmers out of the water at least the first part of tomorrow. The New York City beaches are closed until further notice for the same reason, because it's just too dangerous. They don't want to have to deal with rescues and the potential for drownings. There's your wave video we shot earlier, and you can get a sense of how large those waves are. And the rip currents are dangerous, not only here up and down the Jersey Shore. So the best bet is heed the lifeguard's advice, stay out of the water, and stay on the beach and stay in a safe place. Heather, that's it here from a very sunny Jones Beach.
And, you know, Mike, what about the rip currents out there? You know, have the lifeguards there been concerned about the rescues, or really, as you said, with people heeding it, is that not going to be an issue?
No, they're concerned. That's why they've closed the beach to swimmers. Yes, they're concerned.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike. And now, Carl, let's get more on what's happened in Bermuda.
And once again, it was a scary time overnight and early this morning in Bermuda, but largely a glancing blow. Tropical storm force winds were felt there. There were some power outages. No injuries being reported at this time. Let's get more on the situation in Bermuda and the impact of Hurricane Bill from Storm Tracker Jim Cantore. And here once again is the very latest on Hurricane Bill, a 100-mile-an-hour storm. It is now moving rapidly off towards the north at about 23 miles an hour. That's going to bring it into the Canadian Maritimes late tonight and early tomorrow. Let's take a look at some of the stats here and where some of the watches are now. There are tropical storm warnings in effect as we get up into Cape Cod here. Also lingering tropical storm warning in Bermuda. Those will be dropped in short order as the storm moves away. But again, it is a very large circulation, huge area of tropical storm force wind. This is comparable in size in terms of the wind field to Ike and also to Katrina. Not as much in the way of hurricane force wind, but certainly a very large area of tropical storm force wind, and that's what's going to move by parts of the northeast coast later today. That high surf continuing probably on the order of 15 to 20 feet around Cape Cod later tonight and early tomorrow. Same story there in Cape Hatteras through the day today, coming down later tonight as the storm moves on by, and about 10 to 15 feet anywhere from Long Island right on down into South Carolina. So in a lot of areas, it's going to be very dangerous to get into the water. There's also a look at the coastal flooding potential. Coastal flood watch in effect there around Bar Harbor in Maine. Coastal flood warning around Cape Hatteras, and a coastal flood advisory here for Long Island and also for the coast of Maine. A lot of things to watch out for in the next 12 hours or so. Heather?
All right, thank you so much, Carl. Well, now the northeast coast could see waves topping 15 feet because, of course, of Hurricane Bill. Meteorologist Jeff Morrow is live in Orleans, Massachusetts.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, a lot of oohing and awing going on up here on the boardwalk as people are watching, the water come up behind me here and overwashing the beach. So a lot of people kind of getting chased up to the dune line. We're coming up to high tide here. So we'll talk a little bit more about this in a live report coming up here in just a moment. And we'll tell you how high those waves will get.